I had instances where, talk about being overwhelmed, with my anxiety and stuff, where I would put on a smile that wasn't real. Talk about situations where, you're reaching for answers. I was at a very dark place at that time.
Hey, and welcome back to Reaching for Answers, the road from Emmaus. And, today we're back again with Angelo Pampina. Angelo, good to see you, my friend.
Great to be here with you.
And here
Feel
with
very
our
blessed.
special guest, Jordan Allen, right
Yeah.
here today.
Oh,
So
good to
excited.
be here. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
excited to hear
awesome.
your story.
I can't wait to hear your story because we met in a very unusual situation,
Yeah,
which we'll go into in a second. But Angelo, why don't you talk a little bit first about the purpose of what we're doing here and what we're really trying to accomplish. So go, give it a shot.
So yeah, reaching for answers. All of us are out there in the world. We're trying to find answers to what's going on in our lives. And this is just a way for us to share those God instances that happen in your life where just it can't be a coincidence. It can't be just, happenstance. This is God in my life making a difference, making it happen, and sharing that story so that it's going to maybe touch someone's heart and touch and say, wait, I went through that same thing, or that happened to me. And that's just coincidence. No, it's a God incidence. And hopefully by sharing our stories, it's going to touch other people's hearts.
And in addition to touching their hearts, what it can do is if they know kind of what brought about the circumstances where you had this God incidental moment, right? They themselves can, if I did maybe something that Jordan did or what Angelo did, maybe if I got involved with this or that, those things would start to happen. Because we always talk about you got to have an open mind and an open heart. And I remember when we first went to Emmaus, for example, and that's not where everything happens. Jordan's never been to an Emmaus meeting. Okay?
Absolutely,
He comes
right.
from a completely different place. But we always say open mind, open heart. The guys always go, open mind, you know what? And it becomes like BS, like open mind, open heart. But the reality is, if you do not have an open mind and an open heart, then you miss all the stuff that really is going on. And I know as a former agnostic, and I've said it many times, as a former agnostic, I didn't believe in any of this. It was like, are you serious? I mean, Christ died for our. I mean, come on, man. That's just so much BS, right? So I was
Absolutely,
closed to all that until things started to happen, and now, you couldn't take my my faith away from me because of those things that were impossible unless there really was a God and He really is involved in our lives. So where I'm going to hit you with to start is we got these behind us. One of them is Reaching for Answers. What's the name of the show? Do you see yourself as one of those guys that was reaching for answers, or were you in a situation where you were overwhelmed in your life, or have you been so faith-based all your life that you're just kind of rebooting and, occasionally you're singing in the choir and you need a little boost or whatever? But tell us about you, man. I want to hear your whole story.
So, well, it's like touching on the earlier thing. I think a lot of people believe that open heart is only for surgery at this point. So there's not really a lot of that stuff going on. But I would definitely say I was all three. I've had instances where I've been overwhelmed. I've had instances where I'm reaching for answers. I've had instances where I need a reboot. We all need a reboot in life. As a personal note for me, I deal with anxiety and I deal with depression and ADHD. So rebooting is definitely something I always need to have happen. And overwhelmed is a lot of the thoughts that happen in my head all the time, especially with the ADHD. I grew up in the church. So I can't say
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So my first memory of the church was when I was like 5 years old. And the church we went to, Second Baptist, which is now my home church in Carnegie, they had a little talent show. And I got up there and sang, "I believe I can fly." And they won't allow me to forget that for the rest of my life now. But that was something that has always stuck with me. And then through the years, we got away from the church, me and my mother, through the issues that we were having with my father at the time. But, the church always finds you when you're at your lowest. And I think that when we ended up back in the church was right when my mother needed to be back and me especially needed to go back. I was young, so I didn't really understand it at the time. But growing up, I realized that that was a turning point in my life that I didn't really expect to happen. Through those years at Second Baptist, my mom became a minister. I learned how to play the drums through church because there was a need to be filled there. My mom actually plays the keyboard still, so we both are a part of the praise and worship team, exchanging angry looks at each other as we play a lot of times when we mess up, but that's family love. But I find nowadays that even with like my work schedule being as crazy as it is, going to church is the recharge / reboot that I need. I work in news. I work at Channel 11 News, so I am around bad stuff all the time.
In Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh, yes, I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Channel 11 News for those watching at home. We're not in sweep, so you're fine. You can not watch us now. But we deal with stories all the time of death and destruction, people losing their lives, losing their houses. It's a lot of negativity. So having that Sunday refresh reboot is something that has become very important to me. My mom will laugh at this because I always usually get a phone call from work while I'm in church. And I'm like, there's breaking news. I have to go. But I always make sure that I still do praise and worship before then.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Now, let's go back to when you were a kid and these things started to happen in your life with your family, all right? In many ways, and this sounds like rhetoric, but it's not, it's a real blessing to have as a kid, because that's why mostly there's old people in church, right? Until stuff starts to hit them, you don't really look for God anywhere. You don't really, because you feel like you don't need him because everything's rolling, right? Mm-hmm. But in your case, you went up as a kid, you really found out that some of those trials and tribulations are the very things that become affirmations that get you early into the faith, which gets you ahead of, like I didn't find the faith till I was 64. So I wasted like a lot of years. You were how old when things got started? And just give us a little bit that you can about that and how those hard times turned into full faith and trust.
Absolutely. It's like, to be sure, I wouldn't say that I'm the perfect Christian. Absolutely not.
Is there such a thing?
I don't think there is.
No, there
I think
isn't.
a lot of people believe, we were talking before the show about people believing that they're the hero in their own story. And I think a lot of people need to understand that while you're the hero in your own, you can be the villain in someone else's. Everyone has faults. Everyone has greatness in them. But, the ability to recognize the two, mesh them together into what makes you you, and add a little God to the mix is what will get you through life. As a kid, it was rough. As most black children growing up, I was basically like another statistic. Abusive father who wasn't around, father who had slept around. One of my youngest memories is still my dad taking me over to another woman's house and my mom finding us there,
Oh, man.
So
Wow.
that's
That's a day that won't go away, huh?
No, a lot of those things, seeing abuse in the house and stuff like that. But I think through that, seeing that my mom is still a person who stands and is still strong and her faith is unwavering is really a testament, because a lot of people would break in those situations. And to see her still every day doing Bible study and still every day praying and asking me if I'm praying and asking me if I'm okay and if I've talked to God the night before is really a testament to that.
Did you think that was all corny at the time when?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, did you want to go, hey, Mom, shut it down, or
Yeah.
And what was her rock? How did she? What was the rock that she had that kept her with full faith and trust when all this bad stuff's going down?
I think realizing that through all of that God was still in her life, through all the times that she fell, through all the times that she left, maybe strayed away from the path, that God was still there waiting with his hand outreached.
How did she know? Did she ever talk to you about how she felt that, or how she knew that existed?
She hasn't talked to me much about that situation, like from her point of view. From an outside perspective, I know that she is very, very devoted to the church. She's very devoted to being a minister. She's very devoted to reading the Word of God, all that stuff. And growing up, that was I was a basic minister's kid, like, no, I don't want to do that. I mean, I didn't drink and smoke and stuff, but, I was like, I'm not going to church today. I'm not going to church. I'm going to go play video games. That's fine. No, I have other stuff to do. I have a show that I have to do and this stuff, and it didn't really hit me until I was a teenager, what I was missing out on, because I had instances after leaving college where doors kept closing. And I thought it was a me thing and not a God thing, where he's like, oh, I'm going to make all these doors open. That's fine. Like, sure, they're shutting, but I'm going to open them up myself. Another door closes. Okay, that wasn't for me, but I got this. I can open the other door. Door closes. Clearly it's not me
Yeah.
that is doing this. But until, my mother told me, you need to start praying. What do you actually want in life? You should pray for it. What do you want to achieve in life? You should wait for God to open that for you. Because if it's for you, it's going to be for you. And
I love that.
finally listening to that and understanding that, oh, it's, it's not just talk, it's for real.
How many doors had to close?
Out of college, 6.
6.
Wow.
6 total. Yeah. And then out of college, the one door that opened was Channel 11.
So indeed, the doors that closed were the ones that needed to be closed because they would have led you maybe not to where you have become so tremendously successful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tried to be a wrestler, still do, but the door to that one kind of
What,
closed.
WWF or?
Oh yeah. I still professionally wrestle every once
What's
in a while.
your wrestling name?
The Successful Saint Jordan Style.
Wow.
For those at home, I've won 4 Emmys for Channel 11, and I actually hit people with them, which is probably not what you should do with an Emmy.
You take him into the ring.
I take him into the ring, and I'm actually a bad guy in the ring, so it's like complete polar opposite to how I am in real life.
Oh, that's fun.
Now, do you wear a
so-
mask? Because I can't see
No.
with that smile. I
No.
can't see him being the bad guy.
The smile makes them want to hit me even more.
Okay.
It's the arrogant smile.
Oh yeah, the arrogant
okay.
smile. My whole gimmick is that I'm better than you. I
Okay.
have money. I have success. I go to award shows all the day, and you just live in Uniontown.
Yeah, right.
Why do I care what you think?
Okay.
Oh,
But
beautiful.
when I get out of the ring, it's a totally different thing, and I kind of relate that to my walk with Christ. I always did put on a mask before I started actually listening to His Word. I had instances where, talk about being overwhelmed, with my anxiety and stuff, where I would put on a smile that wasn't real. The first instance, and it's funny, all my issues seem to revolve around women. I don't know why. I should just learn how to pick them better, I guess. But
Pray.
yeah, pray. Yeah, exactly. My mom always tells me that, God has the one for you. And if you're unequally yoked, it's never going to work, So I always unequally yoked. And for some reason, one day it's going to click, But
Yeah.
having an ex at the time who was very manipulative, who actually got me away from the church.
How old are you when we're talking about that?
We're talking freshman year in college
Okay.
at this time.
Your first real love. kind of
First
thing.
real love, never had a girlfriend at the time and jumped head over heels because that's what I thought love was.
Okay.
And, everything went wrong.
So you're like 18? Is that?
Yeah,
That's
about
older.
18. Yeah. Yeah. Going through, things that no normal teen should go through, abusive instances there, manipulation here and all there. And, I lost my smile at that time. And
Wow, it's
my
hard to
mom,
believe.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
always loved to smile and I just
Yeah.
couldn't. And my mom, told me, you need to come back to church. And so I did. And at first I didn't want to listen. When God's giving you the sign of you should leave this situation, you believe every other sign that tells you to stay. And I believed every sign that told me to stay. I was like, no, God's not telling me to leave. God's telling me to stick it out because I can save her if I stay in this thing. And God's like, no, you need to move on. It's like you're missing out on a bunch of things in life. And this isn't the first time that happened. But I got back to the church. And it went well, and because things started going well, the ego in me built up. And I was like, well, I'm good. God got me, so I can go away, and spread my wings again. So then I went to Channel 11, and things were going well because that was the door that opened. And I feel like it wasn't so much myself pushing myself away. It was a circumstance because I started believing I didn't have time for God because I was doing so many things.
You're busy.
Yeah, I'm busy. I don't
busy,
have
yeah.
time to pray.
Life's good.
Yeah, life's
Once again,
good.
you're not in trouble.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the better it is, the
Mm-hmm.
less you need God, right? You don't need God.
Exactly. And I now know that the biggest tests come when you're not expecting it. And I was not expecting anything because life was good. I'm winning Emmys. I have a very good job. My health is good. And then, that thing cracks. And in the summer, that's when that cracked. The most previous summer with my last ex, that was actually around the same time that I met you, which is where
Really?
this starts to happen, where
okay.
God puts things in your path. I always had this, I guess you'd call it motto. I love to play video games.
Yeah.
And I always believed that I don't know if I'm progressing unless I see enemies in my way. In a video game, in order to get to the end, you have to go through a lot of things. You have to beat the enemies that are in your path. And the main enemy, the devil, will always put stuff in your way to block. And I started recognizing those things as blockages. And that let me know that, okay, I'm actually going towards a blessing right now because things that would distract me before, things that would tempt me before, start showing up again. And that happened, in the summer with my ex. And talk about situations where, you're reaching for answers. I was at a very dark place at that time. I was dealing with an ex who was suicidal herself, which almost started pushing onto me at that time. She was running
Wow.
away from home, and I believed I was the white knight to save her. This is coming from the child who grew up around abuse, with my
Of course.
father and my mother, so she was also abused. So I believe that I have the right equipment to deal with this, which I truly don't. And it's kind of interesting where sometimes where you want to help, it's another way of God testing you. Because how are you going to help this person? Are you going to help them through God, or are you going to help them through yourself? And I was 100% helping through myself, and I now realize that. I believed that I could cure her depression. I believe that I could cure, all the abuse that her exes had dealt with. I'm the one that can change that because I'm a nice guy and I'm a good guy. And in doing so, I lost myself. And it wasn't until I got away from that situation and my mom brought me back to the church
Again.
Yeah, it's a back and forth.
And again, there was this horrible situation
Yeah.
that brought you back
Yeah.
closer to God and closer to Christ.
Yeah. We'll go to the birthday. It's the birthday of last year.
Go ahead.
We were staying in hotels because she couldn't be alone by herself, so I was in hotels with her. I completely left my mom. I didn't talk to my friends. I didn't talk to my band. Didn't talk to anybody. We had talked about an opportunity for me, and that started getting pushed to the wayside.
Big opportunity.
Yeah, and I was literally like, I have to focus all of my stuff on her. This is where my focus lies. Everything can wait. And you never realize that your blessing can pass you by if you sit there. You have to listen when God tells you to move. Otherwise, the blessing's going to go to somebody else. Like, sure, blessings are meant for you, but if you're not going to take it, what's the point in him giving it to you? If you're not going to use it, what's the point in even waiting for it? So we had the conversation on my birthday, with our good friend Tim, and everything was starting to go up into the world. I was like, this is great. This is the new chance. This is exciting. But I'm still here in this position. Am I ready for this? Can I handle doing this? Can I move forward in what I need to do this? Is this a me thing? I think this is a me thing. And that's where I made the mistake.
Yes.
And it turned into this whole bad situation where I didn't go to church for months, and I didn't talk to my mom for months. I didn't talk to my family for months. I was solely dedicated to this woman. And we're talking living in Buffalo. She lived in Buffalo and I'm in Pittsburgh. I'm commuting from Buffalo to Pittsburgh every morning on no sleep to go to work because she has to go to the hospital in Buffalo at the time. And then I drop her off in Buffalo. I drive back to Pittsburgh, go to work.
You're
go to sleep.
commuting from Buffalo to Pittsburgh
Yes.
every day.
Yes.
Every day for work.
Every day.
And you get into work at what time in the morning?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm. And then when 11 o'clock rolls by, I'm back to Buffalo and awake the entire time. Whenever I finally moved her into her place,
We are fortunate you're still here, my
Yeah,
friend.
wow.
yeah, I had many instances where, I was awoken by the rumble strip. And you talk about reaching for an answer. The only answer I have is God, because I should have been dead several times driving at 1 o'clock in the morning on, Interstate 79. And
So obviously God wasn't done with you yet.
no, yeah. And I think the more I think about it, I wonder why I deserve more chances. And I'm sure a lot of people wonder why they deserve more chances, because God's not done with you. You don't know how your story ends. You don't know what job God has for you. And God has a lot more patience than you do.
7 times 7 times 7. Forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
It's not 7 times, not 77 times, but 777 times God forgives you for. That's what we read about. But it's hard to believe that because it just sounds like words in a book.
Yeah.
But in reality, you've lived those words in a book to find out that is the case.
Yeah. And getting out of that situation was life or death. And I chose life. And I am here today because I chose life. I'm not in that situation. And it just goes back to thinking that white knight syndrome is always me trying to save people
Yeah.
because I think that I can, but really God is the one who saves them. And that is something that even now today I'm still working on. It's a journey. It's not, you don't finish learning how to become a Christian. You don't finish learning the word of God. You always still learn, and I'm still learning.
Yeah, I think we all are, Jordan. It's, the same things. You just have to be humble and just leave it all to God. And I struggle with that too. It's like, oh, I can do this, God. And, if you're not relying on God, then I think you're in the wrong place.
Well,
you're in the wrong state of mind.
It's like the purpose of the podcast, right? It's like the purpose of this whole thing. We're not making a difference in anyone's life, right? But we're at least exposing people to what other people are going through. And indeed, God then steps in once they open up their mind and their heart to, well, maybe that can happen to me. If it happened to Jordan,
Right.
and if I do the things he's doing, maybe it can happen to me. Angela, I'm going to put you on the spot. You always said something at the end of all the retreats. You'd always say something like, we know what's good for
Oh,
us.
yeah.
Why don't we
Yeah.
just go into that for Jordan will love this. Go into that.
Yeah, I would struggle because I know what was good for me. And anytime I would serve others and serve God, I was happy. It made me happy. But I couldn't do those things. Why? Because I was too busy. Too busy doing what? Too busy trying to be happy. Jordan, it didn't make any sense. I know what makes me happy. Anytime I was serving God, I was filled with joy. I was filled with that love. But I couldn't do that. I didn't have time for that. Because guess what? I was too busy. Too busy doing what? Too busy trying to find happiness with whether it was money, power, ego, pride,
Family.
arrogance. Yeah, anything else. But I knew what made me happy. And God showed me that. Again, I guess I need a block to fall on my head because I still haven't figured it out, Jordan. But every once in a while, I figure it out and I know, okay, wait, this is where I need to be, not over here.
At the end of every retreat, when Angelo's at a retreat, he'll say that. He'll say, guys, we all know what makes us happy. And then why we don't just do it, right? It's almost like God needs to put his foot or who's ever putting his foot on our neck before we go, okay. I give up. It's not up to me. It's up to thee, right? It's not up to me. It's up to thee. And that's what you've gone through at a young age. I mean, I am envious of the fact that, if I can use such a word, I am envious of the fact that you are where you are at this age where you are because you can help so many people.
But I love too that your mother kept bringing you back. Your mother she was that center, right? And she kept bringing you back to God.
Yeah, she still does to this day.
And I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. If there was ever a truer definition of God's love, it would definitely be my mom, because how many times did I, go by the wayside? How many times did I go the way opposite of where she was trying to direct me, and God is the same way. You know, we always have two paths: the way God wants us to go and the way we want to go. And God will let you go the way you want to go. And
Free will.
yeah, free will. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get burned. But God's always there with the ice just to help you out afterwards. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it's never too late. For me, I always believed that it's too late for this opportunity. It's too late for this. It's passed me by. There's no chance. It's too late. It's too late to go back to church. You know, I've already sinned enough. He's not going to want to listen to me. It's too late. Why would I talk to God right now when I didn't talk to him before? He doesn't want to listen to me. He has billions and billions of other people to listen to. Why does he want to listen to me? And yet people have to understand that, you know, God's there for them. And whatever you're going through, if you ask God, it could be the one thing that gets you out of the situation that you're in.
And you can get to that point where you believe, or the evil one can leave you to believe you don't deserve it.
100%.
I don't deserve it. I'm past being saved. I can't. I'm past having a relationship with God that I want to have that really makes me happy. To Angela's point, and we just know that the more people, if we end up with 500 people in this seat, and I know 500 people that have given talks right along this line, and everybody almost comes back to that same situation where they thought that they were not salvageable, they couldn't be redeemed, and these affirmations get sent their way that at the last minute, if we're open to them, we see them. And then that happens. Example, Jordan was putting this together, putting the production together with Scotty and the guys at Rhino Productions. And by the way, we do this stuff in Pittsburgh and Aliquippa at a place called Rhino Productions. And they're great friends of ours and great friends.
Oh, this place is amazing.
Yeah, of everything that we do. And we're thankful that they have set this all up for us, right? But we're setting it up, and I have no idea. In fact, the stuff that was going on in your head that you just revealed today, I didn't even know. Like, I didn't even know that he was going. I knew he was going through that stuff, but I didn't know that we had anything positive that was occurring. And a guy that he works with named Dan was also involved in all this kind of stuff, right? And he's going through this terrible time, and we're just not quite sure of what's going on because we see so much of a bright future for this guy because of his personality and who he is. So we're talking, setting this thing up.
I thought it was just a smile, but go ahead.
And I say to Jordan, because I'm thinking most people, most people don't really get into the faith, and and this is kind of corny for them, and are they really going to be interested? And I said, like I'd say to some people, I said, are you a person of faith? Which I don't know what made me say that. I do now know what made me say that. Are you a person of faith? And I was just trying to make things easier for him, and I was grateful that. And he said, "Well, yeah, my mother's a minister." And
wow.
So talk about a God incidence.
Yeah.
There's one right there. And then I said, "Well, we're going to be doing some shows where we're going to find out how people have made it through life, how they got answers to their questions, how they overcame. Would you be interested?" And he said, "What do I wear?"
I know, that's what I was worried about.
He said, what do I wear?
I love it.
What's the dress?
Yeah,
what am I supposed to do?
He says, "What's the dress?" And I said, "What are you comfortable in, man?" and here he is today. So
it's beautiful.
He looks like he's about to go out and wrestle somebody. But,
Yeah, he does. Yeah, well, his arms. Yeah,
he wanted
a little bit nervous here.
He wanted to show the
No
arms.
biggie, yeah.
A little bit of,
I can't do the chest pop today. I can't do that
little
today.
A little bit of pride in those, but if you work on them, I mean, you deserve that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Try my best.
You
Building a
have
temple,
way, He has a way of bringing that, that faith out of people. I love that about him. Do you still give the coins away?
Well, it's not giving the
You
coins,
have coins
away.
that you give away.
You're talking about the St. Michael the Archangel medals.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean
Giving
I
the
guess I
coins
screwed
away.
that up.
I was expecting
Jordan.
like a nickel, a quarter, or something.
A penny for your thoughts.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know, but I'm sorry. Yeah, the
but
St. Michael, the Archangel.
I'm going to leave that for another time. But let's talk about affirmations for a second. You talked about your love interest in your life and how that came about and how actually that came from a kind of a dark place, right? But we talk about these affirmations. Tell the story about how you met your wife.
Oh my goodness. So I was praying that God would bring a good woman into my life.
What were the circumstances at the time?
Because I was going to nightclubs all over
old were
Pittsburgh,
you?
Jordan. I was 24, 25, young, like I said, going to these nightclubs, all the popular spots. And this was a long time ago, Jordan, because I'm way past 24 right now. No, it's hard to believe. But yeah, so I'm in church, and I'm a Eucharistic minister, like I told you, and I'm praying that God brings a good woman into my life.
And you're not really believing it.
I'm praying that God's going to bring a good woman. So I'm thinking it's going to happen, but I didn't expect it to happen at St. Norbert's Church under the cross. The other Eucharistic minister, after Mass, hands me a picture of her daughter and says, "You should take my daughter out for coffee."
Hold it. Did they hear
Wait,
you
what?
praying?
No one knew I was praying.
Nobody knew you were praying.
Nobody knew I was praying.
So
this
this came-
is a personal prayer. God, please bring a good woman into my life. Right?
Wow.
And immediately afterward,
Under the cross, St. Norbert's Church, on the altar, this older woman comes up to me, hands me the picture, and again, I don't get it. I don't see God answering the prayer, right?
she says what?
She gives me the picture
It
and
says-
says, "Hey, you should take my daughter out for coffee sometime."
And you go, yeah, right.
That's exactly what I said. Yeah, right. No, I said, "Sure, yeah, I'll think about it." Walked away. My father always had a fire going at the house. Always, especially during the winter time. I go in, I toss the picture in the fire.
Oh,
You
come
talk
Dude.
about toss the picture in the fire,
How
guys.
nasty.
Yeah. But again, praying to God, asking God, God answers my prayer. God gives me this woman. I don't see it. So how many times does that have to happen in my life that I don't see it? I throw it in the fire, but God said, "Wait a moment here." So we did connect. She comes up to me.
How
at
long
church.
after that did it happen?
It was probably a couple months later.
Did you leave
This
out the part
girl's-
about throwing it in the fire? Like,
No, I told her. So
the girl shows up with her mother. or how?
She's at church and she comes up to me and we
Well, why
start
did she
talking.
come up to you? Did her mother tell her?
mother, well, and again, her mother said, "I want you to go out with this guy, Angelo Pampina." She said, "I'm not going out with an Angelo Pampina."
well, yeah, you threw a picture
Yeah.
in the fire.
Well, no, she didn't know that at this time, Jordan. Didn't know. She didn't know it. So anyway, we end up going out. Well, history's made. We were married and have a beautiful life together for the past 33 years.
Oh,
so
man.
Wow.
so again, you never know how God's going to answer your prayer, and I pray that you don't miss it.
So we talk about how it seems like it takes the negative before you really make the move that's going to be positive in your life, and you start doing the kind of things that bring you the affirmations that bring you closer to God, and those things make you happier and more successful in life. BIBLE, basic instructions before leaving Earth. You know what I mean? I used to think that was so corny. But indeed, that does happen. So you were talking about anxiety and depression. So many
Yeah.
people your age, suffer from that. What have you learned from that about your relationship with God and how you've overcome or how you're overcoming that? And does it ever go away? How would you help a person out there who's right now suffering with anxiety and depression, maybe has no belief in God? Where did you go with that?
I went the route that if I'm praying, I'm not hearing. I'm listening to God and how God is moving, so that is quieting everything else that's in my head. So with the anxiety and the depression that goes on, I don't hear the bad thoughts that, you're worthless and, you're not good enough to do all this stuff. And sure, you're doing great at your job, but that's going to end anytime soon. So why even try anymore? And instead, I'm praying to God, and that's taking up space in my mind, which I think is wonderful. A lot of times in therapy, what people will tell you is that you want to replace the bad action with a good action. So replacing a positive with a negative, right? You're taking the situation that is bad, but you're looking at the bright side of it. And sometimes that doesn't work for a lot of people, and that's fine. Everyone's different. But the one thing that works for everybody is if you reassess the situation that you're in. So I am having an anxiety attack and depression in the situations that are happening to me, and I don't know what's going to happen. My way to react to that is to pray. for whatever's going on. You know, I used to have, I laugh at it now, but like when I was a kid, whenever I had nightmares, I would grab a Bible because that's what I knew.
Wow.
You know, and I would sleep with a Bible.
What
like
a
I would just put it in my
beautiful
head,
thing that
and
is.
immediately,
Yeah.
you know, the nightmare would go away. So that became my coping mechanism for what was happening on there. Now in this day and age, you know, we have social media, we have, you know, these insane levels of things that we have to live up to that are unobtainable, even to the people that we believe are leaving them, you know, that are living them. You know, you have magazines telling you you're too fat. You have magazines telling you you're too skinny. You have magazines telling you you're too perfect. You should dial it back. You know, you're always going to be wrong in the eyes of the world
Yeah.
because the world's job is not to uplift you, it's to tear you down. And so when you discover your faith and you go to church, and to those who haven't discovered your faith, you know, you may think that tomorrow is a good day. You may think that the next day is a good day, but today is much better because you never know when your time's going to come. You know, working in news, I've seen friends who have shown up on my editing thing who have died that I talked to the day before. And I learned that they died in a shooting. And, you know, that was the last time I could have told them, you know, that I loved them, that I wanted to see them, that let's go get some food. So you don't have as much time as you believe. Sure, God will wait on you, but he won't wait forever. And when it's your time, it's your time. And so with the anxiety and depression of that aspect, why not pray on it now? You know, why not talk to God? Why not talk to a person who's actually going to listen? And you may get an answer that you're actually searching for. You know, that's the whole point of, you know, reaching for answers. You're on a road and it's a journey. It's not an easy one. It's never an easy one. And honestly, why would it be? What would you learn if it was just the easiest thing in the road? Like if I just crossed the road and there were no cars in the way, I wouldn't learn to look both ways. I would just walk and then boom, I'm done. So you can't make a diamond without pressure, and you can't grow unless you have some tribulation in your life. And that's what I've learned, you know, in my walk is that I can't look as the tribulation. You know, we talked earlier about, you know, my video game analogy, how if there's enemies in your way, that means you're going the right way. I can't know that I'm moving in the right direction unless God is testing me. And if God is testing me, that's because he knows that I can take it. And if he knows that I can take it, that means I'm worth something, right? And if I'm worth something, what would I have to worry about? It's the weirdest way like that I've come to like think about this type of stuff, but it helps me. And if it helps someone else out, awesome. You know, if you think it's a bunch of, you know, crazy talk, then sure, find what works for you. If prayer is not it, talk to a person who's in your church. If talking to someone that's in your church isn't it, listen to a gospel song. You know, I have a boss at work who, whenever he's about to cuss someone out, he starts listening to the gospel and he's like, I feel better. Yeah, so those type of things help.
But Jordan, it's obvious to me that the student has become the teacher over here. I mean, how you related this to us, and hopefully to people that are watching this, is such a beautiful thing and so simple. And it's like to Angela's point earlier, you know, we know what we should be doing. We know what works for us, but we just don't do it for whatever reason. But you are able to come back every time and grab that Bible and take it to bed with you. That's such a cool thing right there. I never even thought about something like that. When you're feeling that anxiety and that depression, just grab it and hold on to it and
like
have
Linus
some
the
faith
safety
and trust
blanket.
and keep your mind and heart open. You know, there's a story, you know, guys, I'll wrap up my end of it and then you guys do a wrap. You know, everybody knows this story, I guess. The guy, there's a big flood and the guy's in his house and the water starts to rise and, you know, he has to get up to the roof and he says, God, you know, save me, send me, save me. You know, and while he's praying, a canoe goes by with somebody in the canoe and they said, hey, can we help you out? And the guy goes, no, God's going to save me. You know, then 20 minutes later, guy comes by in a motorboat, right? A guy comes by in a motorboat, and a motor, you know where the story's going. The guy said, "Hey, can we take you to the shore?" No, God's gonna save me. And then all of a sudden, the water's up to his neck. He's on top of the roof, and the helicopter's flying over, and they put the ladder down, right? And the guy says, "Hey, come on, get up here. Can we help you out?" He said, "No, God's gonna save me," right? So of course he dies. He drowns, and he goes to heaven. You know, and the first thing he says is, God, I prayed to you and I expected you to save me. What happened? He said, I sent you the canoe, I sent you the motorboat, I sent you the helicopter. How many times have I got to? But, you got to have the open mind and you got to have the open heart in order to realize it's not up to me, it's up to thee. Wrap it up on your end. We'll let this guy wrap it up in total. Go.
Yeah, I just loved your stories, Jordan, and I've learned so much from you, and thank you for sharing those. And I just hope that your stories help everybody who sees this to just get closer to God and have that strength to overcome like you did and like you do. And I know it's a journey. It doesn't end here. And I think as long as we keep sharing these stories, it's going to just help others and lift them up. And anytime we can lift others up, I know we're doing God's work. So thank you.
Oh, anytime. It's like it's wonderful being able to share things. We have a men's Bible study and men's fellowship, and with not having a dad in my life, for most of my life, not having men was something that never really happened. I never really talked. I grew up in a family of women, so I was taught to always share your emotions and feel what you're feeling, and not really the whole macho just suck it up and stuff, but the ability to have like-minded individuals, especially other men to talk with, is a wonderful thing because they can relate to you in a way that other people can't. Generational barriers, age barriers, that doesn't matter. Racial barriers, especially. We all believe the same.
Hey, when we sit here like this, I often say to myself, why in the world don't we all get along? I mean, it just seems impossible. I mean, I feel as close to you as I do to Angelo or anybody else, and I know you feel the same way. And what prevents us from feeling this experience for all of us, huh?
Ego.
I
feel like ego is the main thing that stops that. If you constantly live your life believing that you're better than the next person, how can you ever be on another person's level? So as soon as you get rid of that ego, you start to just realize there's so much good in this world. There's so much happiness in this world. There's so many more stories out there that you can relate to that can help build you up. You never stop learning. I'm only 34 and I know I have a lot of learning to do still. And, I was so happy to be able to talk with you guys and learn more that'll help me. Like, this has helped me so much. And I hope that, someone out there releases their ego and learns themselves.
Amen. And we're going to post all this on YouTube and a variety of other places. And we would hope that you'd send us your remarks, your comments, how we can improve things, how we can help communicate to you even better. And we're going to be doing that hopefully for a long time, as long as, if they say, if God's in it, we'll be here for a while. If he's not, this thing's going to fold. So we look for your input and your stories and your affirmations. And we'll also hopefully invite some of you to be sitting in Jordan's chair in the future. Can we have a big amen to that?
Amen.
Amen.